Buckle up. Schleg said it's about to get bumpy on the podcast daily. It is Thursday. It is Ohio State, Penn State week. So you can tell that Anthony Schlegel is ready to go. He's juiced out of his mind.
No doubt.
What's got you fired up right now, Schlegs?
I just got done with a sweet chest workout. You know, I did some heavy neutral grip bench, which I don't really do. I had a good warm up, good neutral grip bench. Trained the kids earlier this morning. Did some field testing. They've all improved, which is great. So then I came in, and my neighbor Frank and I came over, listened to some rockin' 80s, and got swole and did that. And then we did, what else did we do? We did some incline dumbbells, 1-1-1, like alternating, which is fantastic. Then we did some flies and abs and dips. And I'm just feeling swole, man, right now. So that got me fired up. And it's Penn State week, man. Let's go.
Yeah, it's huge. This is, it's kind of a cliche, Schlegs, but like these are the games that Ohio State Buckeyes come to Ohio State to play in, right?
No doubt. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, here's the thing, like you're coming off of a Purdue win, and there were some really good things that transpired, not necessarily the injuries. They're not necessarily, you know, the fumble in the end zone or McCord's strip sack where he just has to step up because he's 10 yards back and people are blaming Fry, and you can't do that. But I will say this, man, the goal line stand there at the end of the half. Like you don't ever want your opponent to just march down the field, and they rattle off a couple of big explosive plays, but they got the ball on the 1 yard line. And next thing you know, they're kicking a field goal from the 30, something like that. Yeah. And they missed the field goal. And so you could have gone up 27-20 at halftime, but it's 20-0 at halftime, or 27-0 at halftime. Now it's 20-0. It's all good. And so, you know, earlier in the game, we thought that Ryan wanted to run it. Again, people out there, the first drive, there's a lot of pass, but they had over 100 yards rushing in the first half, and Chip started to get that rolling, but then we saw Dallin Hayden just try to come in on his own, and I really liked the way that he ran. And matter of fact, probably more importantly than who's in the backfield is the motion, the formation, all of the different things that they were able to do out of the 11 personnel package, 11 being one back, one tight end, which we run a lot of, but through motion, through jet sweeps, we were able to do the quick tosses. You saw that, one into the boundary, one into the field. But hey, guess what? Into the boundary, though a lot of us don't necessarily like that, you have to do it because it keeps them honest. But when you get that, Dallin did a really nice job of one plant and go, right? When you run the stretch zone or that toss, it can't be I just keep bouncing it out to the outside. As soon as I see a seam, I got to put my foot in the ground and get vertical. And he was able to do that and get positive yards. But again, Cade off of that, right? Play action, boom, he's open over the middle. Like those are the things that you like to see. He had a big game, obviously, with 2 touchdowns. Marvin had a big game. Kyle still threw for over 300 yards. Was he close to 300 yards?
Close. I think.
Yeah, close.
284, 285.
Yeah, something like that. Right. You know, so, yeah. And then we also saw the Devin package, and can you do both? Is it good to see? Like, listen, it doesn't matter. They have to prepare for it. So whether or not they bring it back, kind of our Taysom Hill package, that's fine. They still have to adjust to it and work on it. But at the end of the day, who cares? Just go score points. And that's going to be critical when you play a really good Penn State defense coming into the shoe. Now, I will say this. They've been outscoring everybody by over 4, they scored, 44 points a game. But their red zone defense, every time a team has gotten in the red zone, they've scored points. Hasn't been a lot of them. I think they've only had 7 opportunities, but people have been able to score. In this game, it's going to be vital that we score touchdowns, not field goals.
Schlegs, when you talked about, some of those motions and the different packages that Ohio State used against Purdue and like putting a bunch of stuff on tape for Penn State, I get that part from like a coaching perspective, but I also feel like Ohio State saw a lot of success of what it can do when it runs these plays, and it also got some reps. Like, it's not purely, from my perspective, just about Penn State. Like, they found some things that actually work for themselves.
Well, it's new quarterback, 3 new offensive linemen. And again, like you could say, even the running back situation from last year to this year, like it's different, right? You got to see who the pieces of your puzzle are. And sometimes that takes time to fix. You're like, oh, you should have known that about in spring or in fall camp. But it's also the identity, right? That's not what happens with the quarterback battle. You're starting to find your rhythm and your identity. I think a lot of those things work really well when we go up tempo, because though you don't have to substitute. So they're out there in 11 personnel. They're still going to run the football. So you're going to run base. You're going to run nickel, which if you're running base and us, Kate Stover on a tight end, that's a good matchup. Like, we like that. Where you want to go nickel, we're going to run the football. So you like that. So what it does is it gives you an opportunity of doing what you do best. And I think for us, playing with that tempo and still being able to be vertical, like, that's what it is. And let's not kid ourselves, man. We're 1-3 pass to run. I think it's over 300 yards passing, 100-something yards rushing. Like, that's what we do. Our vertical passing game sometimes sets up that running game. And that's just who you are. Penn State, we know this. Penn State's very balanced. Penn State has 2 running backs over 360 yards apiece. They got 9 touchdowns between them. They have 1 wide receiver, that has over 400 yards, but their tight ends catch a lot of touchdowns. Okay, so at the end, that's who they are, right? So it's okay. You find out what your identity is, and then guess what? You show up on Saturdays and you see who the better team is. And that's what you love about college football.
All right, so as you get ready for this matchup in 2 unbeatens, this is the first of the sort of Big Ten East round robin to figure out the championship here. What is it that you think Ohio State does best, Schlegs, and how does that align with this matchup with Penn State?
Well, I mean, let's talk about Penn State and what they're really good at. They're really good at. We can start offensively. They're really good at running the football.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily concerned about the vertical passing game for Penn State. Aller has done a nice job controlling what he can control, not necessarily turning the ball over. But if you look at his completion yardage, it's like 6.5 yards. So he's not really throwing it down the field as much as you would see. It's more all the underlying things, right, that he does. They control him, right? Again, first-year quarterback having to come in and shoot, that bodes well for Ohio State, and he's an Ohio kid. There's going to be a lot of emotion running through his veins, which it should be, because these are fun games to be a part of. So they run the football really well. And again, they utilize the tight end. So that's kind of them offensively. And with that, they're 11 for 12 on 4th down, and they're really good on 3rd down, almost 50%. So that's what they kind of do good on offense. On defense, they got the number 1 total D. They got the number 2 scoring D. They got the number 2 rushing D. Like, these 3 teams, Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan, it's almost like the Big Ten of the early 2000s when I played. Really good defenses. They're all right there stacked up in the top 10, top 5 in over almost every statistical category. Mm-hmm. Here's the other thing. They have 27 sacks on the year, 7 interceptions, and 6 fumbles. Like, they will get after you. But also goes into who have they played? WVU, Delaware, Illinois, Iowa, who plays really good defense. They scored 31 points on them, but they had a lot of turnovers. Northwestern was tied up at halftime, right? Then they played UMass and blow them out. So it's their test. It's our test. Though we've already been tested by Notre Dame, who I think is actually a good football team. So what does Ohio State do well in those, those regards against Penn State? I'm going to say that it's going to have to be this, right? It's going to have to be, we have to be able to stop the run in this aspect. It has to be to where we get them in 3rd and medium and 3rd and long. Mm-hmm. They start gashing you and it's 2nd and short, 3rd and short. That's going to be tough sledding all day. They're going to want to control the time possession, which they have in all of their games for over 34 minutes a game. That's what we have to do. When we can get them in the 3rd and long and force them to pass the football, look for them to be quick deliveries, because JT and Jack Sawyer had a really good game, 1.5 sacks each last week. Mm-hmm. But we also had some batted balls down at the line of scrimmage with Talik Williams. So, but situational football is really what it's going to come down to. Not saying you're going to eliminate the run. They're going to go get theirs. But when you can, you have to limit it to try to get them to 30 medium so you can get the ball back for our offense. They're going to try to control that. Now, defensively, in regards to defense, make Aller beat you. So you're going to see a lot of selling out against the run, which means, and again, I feel very confident probably in the unit that a lot of people were like, where are they going to be this year? Our secondary has been playing at a very, very high level. So I'm going to put it on them to stop the pass and allow our defense to be, our front 7 to be able to stop the run. That's kind of what I see is going to have to happen. And then offensively, going against this defense, you have to be able to establish the running game so you are in the 2nd and 3rd and manageable. It's vice versa. But the one thing that we have is we have playmakers all over the field. So listen, if you're gonna try to bracket Marvin, Emeka, or whomever, right? Cade, even, they're gonna be able to make some plays. So that's where the stuff that you saw in the Purdue, the formation, the reloading of the formation, the motion of the formation, to really get them to have to communicate, to open some things. You got to protect for some of those over routes that we like to run offensively, but I think we can do that. So that's really what it's going to come down to. And you can't turn the ball over against against a Penn State like this. Right. So in all big games, turnovers matter. So the team that wins the turnover battle is probably going to win this football game.
Schlegel, you mentioned, Penn State's schedule and the fact that, they can't control it at this point. They played who they played, but they haven't been in a test. Ohio State was in one at Notre Dame, went to the final play. Notre Dame destroyed USC last week. Maybe that's a confidence booster in a locker room. I don't know what that's like. You do. Does that matter to Ohio State? Hey, they've already done this once. They've proven themselves. They think Notre Dame is pretty darn good. Maybe that, I don't know, makes you feel a little extra bumpy in practice that week. I don't know. Like, is that significant that Ohio State has already done this and Penn State has not?
I think it is, right? They've been in a battle. They've had to win at the end of the game. They had the drive that won it, And again, it could have gone multiple ways within that drive. It could have gone multiple ways within the game. Like that's the beauty of football. But at the end of the day, they won the game. That gives you some confidence. It was on the road, at Notre Dame. I think defensively, we have a lot more confidence coming from where we were last year, from where these guys that are playing significant snaps were 2 years and 3 years prior. Like they're starting to feel it, right? They're starting to understand what their responsibilities are. So yes, I think they have confidence. I think that you're going to see that in this game. I think it's going to be a really close game, but it's going to be one, at the point of contact, meaning the line of scrimmage. And again, I'm not saying too many times people are like, they're soft or whatever. Like that's false. I just want to see really good gap integrity on the defensive side of the football, meaning this. If I'm responsible for the A gap, I'm responsible for the A gap. If I'm responsible for the B gap, I can't be hitting this guy square up and then trying to get over. These running backs are too good. You know what I'm saying? So that being said, that's what I want to see. Build the wall, fundamentally sound up front on defense, I think slows down that Penn State rushing game. But the confidence is there. I think it's starting to click. Does Ryan Day say, man, I'm really confident with where our team is? No, you're never going to be, because it's a marathon, not a sprint, but you want to see that jump. Can we put a complete game together, in all areas that we want to see? But again, at the end of the day, the number one thing is get a win at home versus a really good Penn State football team.
Yeah, that's going to require a few difference makers to get it done, Schlegel. Yep. So who have you got circled on the lineup this week for the Buckeyes?
Well, Michael Hall and Talik Williams up front, the two guys, in the middle. Like it's on them. I want to see that transpire.
Have you been surprised by Talik Schlegel? He's really got like this. He's only shown flashes of it through the first 2 years. And then we're talking about, work ethic and health and all the other things. And man, he has been really phenomenal in my estimation.
Listen, last week he didn't get a sack, right? But he batted down 2 balls. Sometimes when you can't get there, the best thing that you could do, especially when a quarterback steps up in the pocket, is get your hands up, right? So it was from the perimeter pressure that allowed them to then bat some balls down. I like that, right? So, but again, a complete game from everybody that's in the interior part of our defensive line is going to be critical this week. Linebackers are there all the time, but Ingmanuson and Denzel, like they're going to be manned up on these guys, on their wide receivers. And like I said, Lambert Smith is their guy. There's their go-to guy. They had 400 yards total. He has 3 touchdowns. Like that's their guy. Lock him down. It might be like, hey, you're on him all the time. I don't think they rotate corners, but do your job, because the safeties are going to be involved in the running game. It just is what it is, right? I think you're going to see a heavy dose of, Styles in there on in the running game. So that's who it is, defensively. And then offensively, it's going to come down to the tackles and being able to protect Kyle, because again, you have to be able to give them some time on their longer routes. But that's what we do best, guys. So if that's what we do best, like we have to protect him because you can't turn the ball over. So those would be the 2 guys. offensively that really have to step up and have some big games.
You referenced the strip sack and that Kyle McCord could have maybe done more to help out Josh Fryer there. Have you felt for the most part this year, Schlegs, like all this talk about the offensive line, that the pass protection has been good enough for Ohio State or not in your mind?
No, I think it's fine. I mean, I think, listen, every time you're in a game, you're just getting better. It's just more experience. You lost 3 guys last year that are playing in the NFL right now. It's going to happen. So guess what, man? Like, just keep moving your feet, keep bending. You're never out of a play. And if the guy, speed rushed you on the outside, great. Run him upfield. Kyle, you got to be able to see that, especially the one where it's coming from the side that you can see, meaning the right side. You know what I mean? It's a little bit different when it's on your left, but when it's on your right, you just got to step up and help your guys out in that aspect. But it's also a little bit on the play calling because those are longer routes that are trying to develop. So you have to know what you got to do in the pocket to be able to give yourself some time for those routes to come open. But I will say this, some of that happens because you're running the ball effectively and you can then do some of the play action, some of the misdirection. One thing that we haven't seen a lot of, and I'm anxious to see it, is we have really good running backs. You don't see our running backs catch the ball out of the backfield as much as I sometimes would like to see them, because again, the game of football is about what? It's about getting better athletes in space on lesser athletes. That's the deal. Open field tackling, regardless of level, is difficult. So the more that we can do that against Penn State, the better we will be. And it could come from a variety of different ways. It could come from motion like we saw off a jet sweep to like a quick bubble, or a route to the flat to Marvin. And Marvin caught it, got 7 yards. Great. Somebody breaks a tackle, Emeka breaks a tackle, all of a sudden that becomes 15. Like, those are the type of things that we can do. Get your playmakers the ball in space are things that you're going to be looking for.
Interesting that you bring it up this week with the running backs involved in the passing attack, Schlegs, because we saw the comeback drive at Penn State, J.K. Dobbins launching that with the screen. We've seen Travion Henderson be involved in that last year in that second half comeback. This has been a game where it seems like Ohio State has at times used Penn State's aggressiveness and their blitz packages against them with the running backs.
It's so funny you mentioned that because I remember very vividly, I'm playing for the Jets and I'm driving back to Texas after the season, and it was the Ohio State-Florida National Championship game. And I'm listening to it, and I can literally, it's a,
You didn't want to pull over? Like,
no, radio. No, I did not. I wanted to drive 20 hours straight to Texas. Okay. So anyways, it might've been 23 hours. I don't know. It was a long drive, but here's the thing. Radio is the theater of the mind. All I could see is just dudes just coming off the edge. And I'm just like, why are we not screening and drawing these guys? And when you got a team that has 27 sacks and they're really aggressive, use that against them, And guess what? You got playmakers all over the field that you can do that. So I anticipate seeing some of those things, whether it's a tunnel screen, whether it's, a screen from a back, whatever the case may be, tight end screen. I don't know, but I think you're going to see some of that aggressive, some of those calls being dialed up when they think that they're going to be coming out with a significant pressure.
All right. So, Schlegs, what is your viewing plan on Saturday at noon? What do we got this weekend?
It's tough that this game's at noon because I wish it was at 7:30. But that being said, I think it's going to be a close game. These games, Ohio State has I think it's 23-14 in the series. They've won, I think, 9 out of the last 10, something to that effect. Yep. But, Penn State's good. Penn State normally plays us very, very tough, whether at home or away. And, I think it's going to be somewhere like 27-24. It's going to come down to a field goal. And that's another thing in this game. Fielding has done a nice job. He missed the extra point last week, but I think he's made all of his field goals. Their field goal kicker, I believe, is 7 of 11. So, listen, when you get into that high red zone area defense, bend but don't break, right? Limit them to field goals. And it might just come down to that in this game. So I'm thinking 27-24. I think it's going to be a really good football game.
All right. But you're not going to be on a plane or anything on Saturday, are you?
Nope. No plane. No plane. Just here at the house. Beautiful Saturday. Just watching it with my family. Probably have some dudes and dudettes over watching it. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch it happen. And just remember this, guys, like as we watch Ohio State, this is your team. Support your team, man. And so I can't wait to watch this transpire because this game really does set you up for the rest of the season.
Yeah, can't wait. It's going to be an awesome Saturday.
Yeah,
in
man.
the Horseshoe. Everybody get there early, not just because it's a big game, but because the traffic is going to be ridiculous. Big noon kickoff is there. College game day is there. They want Jerry Emig and Ryan Day and Gene Smith have all said, come out, Scarlet the Shoe, get ready. So it's going to be an awesome weekend. I can't wait either, Schlegel. It's going to be awesome to cover.
No doubt.
So we're one day closer. Schlegel has got us there. Hopefully you're all ready to go run through a wall as well.
I'm ready.
We still have to wait 2 more sleeps until we get that. But Schlegel is fired up. We appreciate him giving us some time, as always, on a Thursday episode of the Podcast Daily. I am just Austin Ward. He is Anthony Schlegel. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you later.